Good afternoon, everybody, and afternoon, Kerry. How are you?
I'm fine, and you, Linz?
Good. It is so good to have you on our 12th ever episode of EDspresso Café. Kerry is a natural science and technology teacher at Steyn City School, and I think I first met you at Breaking Down the Silos workshop, hey?
You did, and you blew my mind.
We had a lot of fun designing some inquiry together, and I then managed to see Kerry more often digitally than in person on Instagram mostly. Her handle on Instagram is @TechieTeacherZA. And I'm actually quite intrigued, Kerry, as to why you or how you chose that particular Twitter handle and Instagram handle. Does it tell any of your story? Why do you call yourself a techie teacher?
So it's quite funny. Although I'm a millennial and I got my first computer in grade 1, which was in '95, I thought the idea of naming myself Techie Teacher ZA was really hinting at the skills that I had learned since joining Steyn City and all the opportunities this beautiful school's afforded me. So I'm a self-taught techie, so that's why I'm Techie Teacher ZA. And since starting here, it's really ushered in a lot of my passion and my love affair with technology and an inclusive classroom that technology has given me. So that is why I'm Techie Teacher, techie skills for this 30-something.
Awesome. And your kind of why as a teacher, like what is it that inspires the way that you teach? What made you want to become a teacher?
So I grew up with a little bit of can't really say traumatized, but I had a tough time at school, not only with bullying, but just academically. I had a tough time until it took one teacher in grade 8 to really see who I was and really speak to my soul. And shout out to Miss Siri if she did tune in today. But Anne really saw me for who I was as an individual and celebrated who I was, my strengths, and really motivated me to be the teacher I am today. I'm very passionate about an inclusive classroom and using assistive technology to empower my students to make meaningful learning experiences for them, just to show them that they are fantastic just the way that they are. Even though that, when you plant seeds, they all bloom at different times. That's pretty much how I view teaching in general too.
Amazing. And I think that's why we connect so well, right? Because people, we're about purpose and people, and it's very clear that it's about your students and about using technology with a purpose, like not just for the sake of it. So I'm intrigued to hear a little bit about how you use technology to do that, to support your students, to make your classroom more inclusive. Can you give us like a specific example of something that you do with your students or in your class that demonstrates the power of technology that you've seen?
So with being a Microsoft Showcase school and what Microsoft 365 with their accessibility tools have to offer, I use a lot of Dictate, which is like your speech to text. So my dysgraphic students use that, although I still make them write out their answers sometimes. They are still learning the letter formation and the punctuation for that.
Yeah,
it's very important in prep school, Immersive reader or read aloud. We use that a lot in Flipgrid or Microsoft Word or even in OneNote. We embrace that as well. There's a lot that I do. Spell checker as well, so that helps my dyslexic learners as well, not only with the writing, but just teaching them that using assistive technology is not cheating. It really isn't.
Yeah,
it's making them feel confident in their space and really celebrating who they are. Because, for instance, I often say to my students, I have one student with dyslexia. It's actually a superpower because you think differently. And sometimes with being the creative thinker, you often take us in directions in conversations that we would never have thought of going. And we celebrate that in my classroom.
Exactly. And problem solving and different approaches are so valuable and such valuable skills for our kids to be developing, right? So I get it. I love technology and assistive technology to kind of help our kiddies overcome barriers to learning. definitely with you on the value in that. But you're also a natural science teacher, which means that you also have a curriculum to cover. And I know that there are a lot of people who might see the value of assistive technology, but who might kind of think, what is the value if you have to cover curriculum? Like, isn't it wasting time? Like, isn't it a bit of a gimmick? Like, isn't it really, playing? And like, we've got a curriculum to cover. We don't have time for that. What do you say to people who talk like that?
My goodness. It sounds like, because my husband often teases me that I play games for a living.
Yes.
But it really isn't that. So, people need to understand that just like with small people, play is learning. I'm doing the same thing with my 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
And what I love about the different platforms that I use in my classroom, not only am I embracing 21st century learning design and empowering my students, they really take ownership of learning, but I can assess in different ways. It's totally non-traditional. And by using all the different platforms that I use Kahoot, I use Flipgrid, I use Microsoft Forms, I use Minecraft. There's so much going on in my classroom that it really affords the opportunity to my students of having more than one opportunity to grasp something in its totality. So I'm able to do my curriculum, even with remote learning. I'm still on par with finishing my curriculum. But at the same time, really scaffold learning and empower my students to learn in their own way and celebrate it at the same time. It's wonderful. It's so organic, and I really enjoy learning because learning is an adventure.
It's so fascinating. I agree. I mean, we talk about eduventures at Purple Zero all the time. It's fascinating to me that you use the word organic. So one of your lessons, which we've actually got showcased on our Purple Zero stories page, and you can also find it linked in the comments below, is a natural science unit that you did with your students around learning about food chains and food webs. And you ticked all of the curriculum boxes. You planned out this amazing learning journey, and you used Wakelet, and you also used Minecraft to engage your students in learning. Of course, everybody can go and click on the link and check out all of the videos and everything on the stories page itself. Kerry's shared all her rubrics and everything is there, as well as some reflections from your students and all of that. But I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit more from your perspective, Kerry, about your thinking. Why did you, or how did you design that lesson, that learning journey? How did you decide you're going to use Wakelet and Flipgrid? What did it kind of encompass for your students?
So because this was right near the beginning of the year, I like to take time exploring different platforms with the children before I get into assessing.
Yeah.
And also before I assess, I do say to them, these are the parameters, this is what I need you to demonstrate. And then a lot of the time, I gravitate towards what speaks to them, what they're most comfortable with. And this group of students in particular, actually the past 2 years, they are avid Minecrafters. And the things that I've seen them do previously before they even got to my classroom, I just thought, this topic within natural science lends itself so beautifully to Minecraft. And yeah, I don't like written tests. I know. I really
think you're alone there.
Parrot learning for me is just, they learn something, it goes in one ear and it goes out the other. So it's, for me, to my pedagogical beliefs and approach, that they need to demonstrate and apply the knowledge for it to stick. Because I learned like that at school.
Yeah.
So I just gotten into Minecraft. I absolutely loved it. And at 30, I was learning how to play, guys. I've been at it for 3 years now. So
never, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can reinvent yourself at any time, and I just loved it. So I thought, all right, so this is what the curriculum needs me to do, and why don't I just get them to do some research into their chosen habitat or biome, and research the food chains and food webs that go within these ecosystems, and then create their own habitat within this glass cube. we had to do a glass cube, otherwise the birds fly away and the jaguars get out and the ocelots. So we just kept it in a glass cube, and then I thought, okay.
Very clever.
Then instead of, last year I made them take screenshots. So you can make a portfolio textbook of a walkthrough of their
Minecraft world.
Minecraft world. And I just thought, okay, this year I'm going to get them to use signboards and type out their facts, and then they can do a walkthrough video. Bonus, because they're really enjoying Flipgrid. So, and that's where it lent us. And last year before COVID, I did this before we went into the first lockdown. I was able to, with the help of our wonderful EdTech Brenton, convert the file into virtual reality. And this is where the other part of the assessment was self-assess, but then peer assess. You know, you're allowed to say, I like this, but you could have done it like that, just to also grow their communication skills.
So important.
But this year I couldn't do the virtual reality, which was sad. But at least with the Flipgrid walkthroughs, it still kind of lends itself to exploring each other's habitats. And the kids had so much fun. But you know what, Lindsay, a lot of the time, teachers forget, especially now, that the students and us as teachers, we're a team. You know, if something doesn't work, my students feel so comfortable saying, Mrs. Van, you know, we liked it, but maybe for next year's group, you can present it like this or assess it like that. So I really value and I know they're 11, but I really value my 11-year-olds' advice, because they have guided me in so many ways, and they feel comfortable that they can practice these assertive communication skills with an adult and do so respectfully. So that's also very important.
And you know, like that makes me think. So a lot of the time we talk about 21st century skills, and we talk about, you know, communication and collaboration and creativity and critical thinking. And actually on our Purple ZA platform, we have a course around how do we teach 21st century skills, because of course we have to be, as you know, intentional about designing these things. But then we also have one called the Forgotten C's, right? Where we're looking at like curation and cognition and compassion. And I think when you're talking about, you know, hearing feedback from your students, I think that is something definitely that we don't do enough as teachers. And I think that it's almost like if you think about it from a design thinking framework, right? As teachers, we call them Purple ZA learning architects, right? We're designing learning for our students. And if we are truly designing learning for our students, then those are exactly the users of whatever it is that we're designing, and that's exactly where we should be getting the feedback, right? So I think a lot of the time, and just acknowledging what they know, the skills that they know. Like I think one of the things that, you know, when I was in the classroom, I was like, I'd heard about this Minecraft thing, and I was like, oh, but I don't really know how to do this thing, so I'm just gonna not. And I think that what you're demonstrating so beautifully is giving something a go, and kind of making sure that you're getting feedback from your students as they're going through the learning, so that it really is a student-centered classroom and really is a student-centered experience, right?
It is. And I'll never forget, these kids are now in grade 7 now, when I started using Wakelets and app smashing. Back then it didn't have a term, app smashing. And I'll never forget them saying, you know, Mrs. Van, I really like using Wakelet because you've put everything in one place and I don't need to go searching for it. So I thought, oh, I'm onto something now.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting to see that they've taken these skills through with them to grade 7, and the work that they're curating for their current science teachers, mind-blowing. And I'm so proud of them.
It's incredible.
I really am.
And massive shout out to Ilanka, who's watching us live on YouTube. You're totally right that it's when we show vulnerability as a teacher that we grow relationships with our students. And I think for so long, because the power dynamics in teaching was like teacher is boss and students are minions, that was, you know, totally you know, kind of mapped onto this old epistemology of learning and knowledge is information as opposed to application and skills and all of these things. I think that that's really a key thing to being an innovative teacher, is that responsiveness to your students' needs and that vulnerability as a teacher to actually be real and vulnerable. And Kerry, I'm intrigued as to, So like you've come, you've said it's only been a few years and you've come such a long way in terms of rethinking your teaching and learning and using not just technology, but things like inquiry-based learning and progressive pedagogies and all of the stuff that we at Purple love empowering teachers to do. What advice would you give to a teacher who is listening to this and is kind of like, I don't know where to start, like what's the deal? I've got this curriculum, I've taught this lesson this way forever and ever. Like, how do I move forward with this? What would you say?
Sure. Okay. So number one, definitely find teachers online that are willing to collaborate and communicate with you. I mean, like you mentioned, we met online.
Yeah.
I attended one of your courses. It blew my mind, threw me into this new direction of teaching and a new lease on new lease on life professionally. And so just find teachers online like yourselves. Ilanka's great group, Reignite Learning. Also, we're a big, beautiful group of community of teachers that talk. Join the Purple ZA group as well, guys. There's a lot of us that are willing to share.
Yeah.
And we'll give you ideas. So that's number one. Reach out to teachers that are willing to help and assist and collaborate with. Definitely. Social media is number one tool to finding those people.
They say it's the best staff room in the world. Like all of the colleagues you had, you can have them virtually, right?
100%. And I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much from Irene. And I've learned so much from Ilanka. It's just, it does take a community to build the next generation. And us as teachers, we need to network. And
so get connected. And what else?
Definitely. Secondly, see what people are using out there. Start with 2 things and then branch out. So I first started with Flipgrid and Minecraft, and then I progressed from there. Now I'm sitting with Flipgrid, Minecraft, Wakelet, sure, OneNote, Microsoft Forms, you name it, I'm doing it. But because I'm comfortable now, and by doing so, my students are as well. They know that things keep changing, and it keeps it interesting for them. But for the people that might be afraid or new to technology, pick 2 and go from there.
That's super, super advice, Kerry. So as Ilanka's mentioning, we need a community. That's why we have Purple ZA stories on our website. That's why we are always looking for more stories, because we know that when teachers see what other teachers are doing in their classroom, that inspires us to innovate and to do better and to move forward. And I also love what you're saying with like, pick 2 tools. If you're looking at technology or if you're looking at pedagogy, pick one thing and kind of maximize it, right? Like do everything that you can possibly do with one tool. And when you're like, okay, got that one, then move on to the next. I think it can be sometimes really overwhelming when you hear like this app and this tool and there's this thing and there's that thing. So solid advice to kind of just narrow it down, streamline it, focus it, and ask questions, right? Like don't be afraid to post in communities, to comment on social media and say, I think that I want to do this with this thing. Do you think it's going to work? Or what ideas would you give me? Or does anybody have anything that would help me to prepare a lesson on this? I think it is a lot of the time teachers are just quiet in their own classrooms. And that's why we're so passionate about community. And there are so many different places to connect with the communities of learning in South Africa. So clearly it's an emergency. But come and join us on Purple for a Teach Fix webinar or for one of our other webinars, some of our workshops. I think your advice is really key, to get surrounded by people that get it and people that are brave and are willing to take the step and be passionate about our students and making education better for them. Anything you want to share in closing, Kerry, before everybody's clappers are up and we can hit the weekend?
I just want to say that the problems we're experiencing today in the world is going to be solved by the children sitting in front of us. Therefore, we need to embrace 21st century learning design, 21st century skills, and empower them to be the amazing adults that we know they're going to be someday, and to solve those problems that are getting us down as adults right now. Tomorrow's solutions are in today's classroom, and we need to do everything we can to support them to be amazing and just be awesome. Super. I could not agree with you more. Thank you so much, Kerry, for joining us.
And for everybody that tuned in on live or is watching the reruns on YouTube, thank you for being here. Please check out the links in the descriptions. You can see Kerry's story. You can see the links to all of our exciting new Teach Fix webinars. And we really look forward to seeing what is going to unfold in teachers' classrooms inspired by today's chat. So until then, keep building.
Keep teachering.
And we will see you soon.
Bye.